Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Tatchat. There will be more than just me here, I promise. We have sent out some invites to the regulars, and hopefully they'll be able to make it. But for now, you're stuck with myself and Nick. So, hi, Nick. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I can't actually see you at the minute. I'm trying to find that, but yeah.
Oh, no worries, no worries. And you got a little bit of cough sweet or chew going on there.
Yeah.
Can't talk.
It's actually what's left from. You remember Kenneth sent us all them sweets?
Oh, right. Oh god, they got ravished. They got ravished. So I'll say a few highs. Tonight's chat, by the way, guys, as you can see from the title, we're going to do a little chat and get your guys' input as well about building risk tolerance when sourcing. So when you're out there looking for stock for your businesses, we've already got 65 people watching right now. So I'll say a few quick hellos. We've got Marilyn's, Laura, Adrian, Mr. Diggs, this is very professional skits, Duffercat, BCP, Sparrows, and sorting through some Playmobil. Tonight's topic is very apt. Spent £60 on this Playmobil and a bit nervous, but over 80 figs so far, which is more than my money back already. Definitely worth the risk. Thanks for sharing that with us, Mel. We'll definitely be talking about that kind of topic, about risk. George Ross as well. Love a good risky buy. I took a punt and spent 400 quid on 200 Bop It pens a couple of weeks ago. Already sold 2 for £35 each.
I saw that. I couldn't believe he sold. They're tiny little things. I can't believe the price you're getting on them, George. That's just
crazy.
I'm worried you'll get them and think they've ordered like a bucket.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Hi, Carla. Carla has joined us.
Hi, guys.
Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Oh, good. Just saying a few hellos to folks in the chat who've been patiently waiting. Apologies for starting a couple of minutes late, but by now you really should be used to it. If you're not, then you need to watch one of our adapting to change style videos. Well, actually, maybe we should adapt to change and try to be on time, but Anyway, so Carla, how's your day been so far? Bit of an introduction.
Odd, kind of a slow, didn't really achieve much kind of day. Not sure why. Started achieving early, had achieved stuff by 9 o'clock and then it all tailed off. Achieved nothing since then.
This is a bit harsh on yourself. I'm sure you've done something like on autopilot and you've just not even. No. Okay.
Thank you for your faith in me, but it is.
I was trying to get you like a little, rope there, but
Nope.
No. Okay. And Nick, have you finally wrestled through the rest of that chew yet, or?
Yeah, I actually got rid of it. That would have taken ages. It was like a toffee thing. I've given up. I'd have been sucking on that the whole chat. Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like most of my days here, Carla. I think I'm trying to achieve something, not quite sure what, and I did tidy a little bit. Not that you could tell behind me, but
No, I haven't even done that.
I took a few photos. Does that count?
That definitely counts. I think tidying counts. Actually, tidying is not a it's an underrated task, isn't it? I think, especially when you're in your stockroom, as it were. You work when your office is in your stockroom. It's really important to keep it organized, because I find that when I let it get out of hand, and I do let it get out of hand.
We also, I was going to say, we also kind of more admin than anything, but we were chatting with the lady at eBay again about moving forward with that. So that's
brilliant.
And yeah, we tried to Skype and that didn't work. So we went back to traditional phone call.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, was it her internet or something?
No, she's not allowed to do anything out of their little eBay network of stuff.
Oh, right. So she had to use like an official.
We tried to use some other software and it wouldn't work, and then we just had a phone call.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Bound by the rules, eh? But that's really cool that that's coming along. When can we expect something, or is it too early to say?
Hopefully, we're going to have like an informal kind of get to know her kind of hangout to start things off, and then we'll see where it takes us from there. That's as far as we've got, really.
Yeah, Peter Cummins in the chat says tidying is one of the most important jobs. Messy workspace drags you down. Very, very true. Very, very true. But we'll get straight onto tonight's topic because we are leaner tonight. I feel that we're a bit, we can be a bit more on point. We haven't got Tom here distracting us with wondrous stories of the girth and size of his wood. So I'm sure that will be missed.
You had to give it a mention, though, didn't you?
Yeah, well, come on, it's like a theme now.
Zahir likes to slide Tom's wood in at every possible opportunity, I find.
Oh, yeah. Oh, mental images.
But
there we go. And we will draw a line under it there, I promise you guys. So we are gonna get on with the topic. Like Mel Sparrow's End mentioned, I mean, she paid out £60 there on some Playmobil and was a bit nervous.
I've got one of those in the loft. We could have had an orchestra.
Sorry, can I just? Oh, I was just trying to get into the zone there. Can I ask?
All adult and professional.
And I see my moment. I thought this will work. This will put him off.
What? What is that?
With his hooters.
What is that?
I was trying to play Christmas tunes on it earlier and failed. I nearly got Jingle Bells. No, I've lost it now. Lost it.
Wow.
Anyway, sorry.
We've got it all here, haven't we? No, that was good effort. Actually, it was just shame that the notes aren't quite. I've
forgotten which ones in which order. I'm playing all the right notes in the wrong order.
Do you think there's probably a YouTube video of someone playing like an amazing tune with that thing?
Well, once I've learnt it, there will be.
You can take requests.
Have you got one of these, Carla? We'll have to hook up and
I've got one in loft. Yeah.
Start a band.
Right. Sorry to derail you.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah. So it's just an interesting topic. Talking about building risk tolerance when sourcing, and like the whole idea of risk reward ratio when in the world of reselling, because we do work in such an informal environment that sometimes it's easy to forget that these formal sounding kind of words are still very relevant, aren't they? So even though we work from our home offices, in our jeans every day or whatever, and got all our tat, we call our stock tat, and it's very the whole thing is very informal, isn't it? And that's what probably attracted most of us to it. But it's important to remember, I feel, that the same analytics, as it were, or still apply to your business. So for example, I mean, I've heard Nick say this a lot of times, numbers never lie. So when you want to tell how your business is doing, the numbers are still there. So the numbers work in exactly the same way for you in your jeans, in your garage selling stuff, as they would do for a more kind of traditional business. And I suppose talking about risk tolerance and like risk reward, I think it's quite interesting because, I mean, obviously, for those of you that haven't seen, I made a video on Sunday where I did take quite a bit of a risk on some stock at a car boot. Also recently we've had some big hauls, and Nick, you've done this as well. Nick and Andrea. Hi, Andrea. You guys have obviously spent out on some sizable hauls, and as Mel was saying, she had that little bit of nervousness, and then George actually chipped in and said he actually gets a buzz from doing that. And it's really interesting to see and just talk about whether you can build that risk tolerance, how far do you take it, and also are your risks kind of in balance with the potential rewards, and sometimes it doesn't happen. How do you let that affect you or not? So I think those are a few topics to chew on. So if we start with Carla, you got anything to say on that in terms of risk reward? How do you feel about it in terms of how does it play within your reselling?
I am famous for being tight-fisted, and the original question was, would you spring out a large amount of money for a fairly guaranteed return, pretty much encapsulated? And the answer is no. It's the large amount of money. I can't do it. That whole, I can get all this stock, but I've only got to pay 1,500 quid. No, because that's my 1,500 quid. No. Whereas I'm quite happy to go out and spend 50p to £1, and I am so small fry. I am not a big player.
So it's not that you're scared of the risk, it's just the amount of money to outlay at once.
Yeah, it's partly having the money to outlay and partly the idea of tying it all up in one go. If I had a lot of money, perhaps I would feel differently.
I think that's a really good point, Carla, actually, that it's not always about, I think sometimes it's easy to think, oh, if I had the money, I would, but it's not necessarily the case. Sometimes if you have the money, even, it doesn't mean you're going to be comfortable outlaying that on that thing. You know, that's why some people keep their money under the mattress. That's why some people.
If you ever watch that Extreme Cheapskates, those people on that program are not poor. It's not that they haven't got any money; it's that they refuse to spend any money. I'm not a cheapskate in that respect, but I am very, very wary of investing what I see as even to my mind, what I see as a large amount of money. Caroline, we went out sourcing on Friday. She saw a Laura Ashley dress for a tenner. She knew she'd get 50 quid. She spent the tenner. I would not have spent the tenner. Because I'm like, yes, I know I can get 50 quid, but when? When can I get the 50 quid?
So that's really interesting.
Get 50 quid for a year? What about my tenner?
That. See, you two have gone outsourcing quite a bit, and obviously we know that Caroline in the past actually did get like a massive haul of stuff, like that, all that BHS stuff, you know, and that was a massive outlay as well. Yet you guys still can go outsourcing together, even though your sourcing styles are that different and your opinions on that are quite different. But it's cool that you can still go out and source together. And it's interesting that it's not that out of ignorance or anything. You know what the
there was a pair of shoes for £6, and I knew damn well that's a £25 pair of shoes any day of the week, but I'm not spending £6.
Andrea,
so
Andrea, what would you say to this then? I mean, how's your how does your risk tolerance compare to Nick's, for example?
Well, just in terms of Laura Ashley dresses, for instance, I'm getting better at that, knowing that I can spend £10 and make £50. So yeah, much better at that. But yeah, we've bought huge hauls, and my risk is knowing, because Nick is less likely to take a risk than I am. So if Nick's wanting to take a risk, then I know we're okay.
So do you do like a yin and yang thing as a couple, where you add and remove risk to each other to like G each other on almost? Because I know that I've had that in the past where I've been a bit iffy about something, and then Rebecca's gone, look, if you think it's going to, you know, make a profit, just do it. And then I'll be like, okay, I'll do it.
I mean, when we first started our shop, Nick, you know, we talked endlessly about doing something like that, but Nick really wasn't in that place where he wanted to just take the leap and do it. And I'm the kind of person that if I believe in something and I think we should take that risk, I'll push him. And then we did it, and obviously it worked out. But
well, I tend to analyze everything. We were talking, you said before that I've had a lot of big hauls and stuff, and we were talking about being risk averse or whatever. I don't go into any of those big hauls thinking I'm risking anything. By the time I've said yes, I know that worst case scenario, I'm going to make some money. I could cut my losses and run at any point, and there's no risk involved. But like you were saying, Carla, it's a lot of money to lay down sometimes, and you don't know when you can get that.
I don't think it's the risk. I think it's the time scale.
Yeah.
So how long will my money be tied up in that for? You know, I paid £20 for a pair of Lokes because I was so sure that they were a good idea. They didn't sell for over a year, and I ended up selling them for 20 quid. And I kind of feel like I got burned because, you know, I probably lost money on those, and that £20 was tied up for a long time. And if I'd spent £20 on 50p in a pound items, I'd have turned it over and over and over in that time.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm still very small fry compared to the kind of hauls that you guys pick up. But what I do wonder is, for example, if you had £5,000 in the bank, and a £1,500 haul came along, and they said to you, you can probably get your £1,500 back within a year. You can probably treble or quadruple or whatever the upples are after that. Then that £1,500 doesn't feel like too much of a risk. You know, it's not really a risk. You will get your money back. You'll probably get more, and you'll still have £3,500 left in your little pile. But if you've only got the 1,500, it's suddenly a very different story, isn't it? Even though you know your 1,500 is probably safe, it's the length of time.
I think what I'd say to that though, Carla, and actually Nick as well, like you can work out numbers definitely of what you expect to receive. But as we all know in this business, or in any business really, the proof is always in the pudding. And sometimes you just don't know. Sometimes the things that you are dead certain are going to be your money makers and are going to flip around. Like you said, Carla, can end up sticking and not selling, and things that you
almost know what I'm doing.
Well, and then sometimes things that you almost would consider throwaway parts of a pickup can end up selling super quick and more profitable. So there's always that inherent risk that but you never really know, because it's so dependent on the market. So there's still like a hurdle that you've got to climb to put that cash down and say, I should in theory do fine with this. I'm giving you my 1,500 or 500 or 50, whatever's a big amount. The number's almost irrelevant, but it's the fact that you're giving over that cash that's larger than your normal.
There's a point you get to where you have to say, I've looked at this enough. I've looked at the numbers. I've worked out roughly what I might expect worst case scenario to get back. Yeah. And then we'll have a conversation and just say, are we doing this? Yes or no? And at some point you have to put your money where your mouth is. And that's where that element of risk and excitement, once I've decided I'm doing it, I'm 100% in and I will go for it. Yeah. But I have to kind of go through the motions, look at everything that's on offer, work out roughly my return on it, and say, worst case scenario, I cannot lose money here. Every now and again there's a deal where you can't even work that out. I would say your RC was a bit like that, where you didn't really know, and there's no way you're going to look through it all and know what you've got. And we were like that with the car parts, but I looked into enough of them to say, hedging my bets here, we're going to be fine. And that will turn out to be our most profitable deal ever, full stop. And
it's bits that you didn't think that were going to be amazing turned out to fly. Like you weren't that excited about your car mats, were you? You thought they would be a bit of an issue. Like you thought because of the size of them. Yeah, you knew there was money in them, but you thought because of the size, it's like, who's going to want car mats for a 1996 Hyundai, this or that, you know?
But you see that just in the end, just on the car mats, we got our entire investment back. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
Well, I mean, we went into that thinking we don't know anything about car mats, no car parts or anything to do with
But that side of it, you see, taking almost like taking the risk of trying something new is the exciting part for me. I tend to analyze the numbers, and that's the kind of work part of it. The exciting fun part is I'm going to go and buy out a car parts room and see what happens. But there is a certain amount of thought behind it, so I don't feel like I'm risking much at the end of the day. I'll be honest.
I think a lot of it depends on what you need your business to do for you as well. So I think the three of us are in three quite different places. So Nick and Andrea, you are mortgage free, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which means you need to produce enough money to eat and keep the lights on, basically. That's the bottom line. And the internet, because without the internet, we can't make any more money. So those are your three. These are the things we absolutely have to do. We have to eat, we have to keep the electricity on, we have to have the internet. Yeah. Zahir, you privately rent, is that correct?
Yeah.
But you do now have a backup of Beck's income.
Yeah.
So you know, presumably, that your rent is paid.
Yeah.
And then the other stuff, so the business. Whereas I'm in a completely different scenario again. I share the house with my children. We split everything 3 ways between us because they are adult children. For anyone watching the chat who's thinking, oh my God, she makes those toddlers pay out their money.
10-year-olds down the pit. Yeah.
I live with my 2 adult children. We split everything 3 ways. Therefore, my outgoings are lower than a lot of people's would be. But because of that, I also don't work so hard because I know my outgoings are lower. And if I don't make any money, if I tie my money up too much, there is no roof over my head because they can't afford to carry me. So I think we're all three in quite different situations regarding the imperative to make a lot of money and to tie up your money. I've gone off a bit of a tangent, but where I was going with tying up your money, if I tie up £1,500 in a deal, I could be looking at not being able to pay my rent for 6 months because I've tied that money up somewhere else. Whereas you guys know the roof is over your head regardless. And I think I've lost my thread somewhere.
No, I completely understand. I completely,
You need to turn over and see that return and guarantee that return then. And then again, whereas what you're saying is like with the car parts, for example, it's a long drip feed until we see that 15, I think it was 15 or 1800 we invested. As it turned out, it came back quite quick, but that wasn't guaranteed.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. If you looked at a big bulk and gone, well, okay, well, there's that one item, and I know that one item I can flip really quickly. That will get my original investment back, and then the rest of it is just fun money. then I'd be quite happy with that. Like when I buy these bags, when I buy these sacks of clothing, I open it, I go, this is the item that has paid for the rest of the sack. I list that one really quickly. As soon as it's sold, I then relax and don't really care how long the rest of the stuff takes to sell, because I've got my investment is back in my pocket.
But the scenario that I know...
Sorry, someone at the door.
That's all right. That's right.
I was going to say, the scenario that Kayla's saying would what you and Beck did to get into the PayPal working capital, would make certain things make more sense in Kayla's position, because you borrow that money and then you pay it back as you sell.
As you sell, that's
right.
You
don't have the issue of your cash is tied up necessarily, but you are paying for the privilege of having that money.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's some really nice comments coming in the chat actually about this as well in terms of risk, and I think it is an overlooked thing sometimes, especially like when you are looking to grow your business to the point where you need it, because it's not about obviously infinite growth. Not everyone needs to get their business or turnover bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger infinitely, but if you are growing your business and it's not where you want it, so then I think you do have to look at, are you actually taking relevant risk and reward? Because if like, for example, Kayla has said many times, very happy with where she is, and hence does the relevant amount of work, relevant amount of sourcing, relevant amount of everything, because she's got it planned basically. But say, if you're in our situation where we're not where we want to be yet, we have to constantly look at ways of trying to increase that. And so one of the ways you do have to look at it is those risks, because we're all on a timeline. I know I could grow slowly. I know we could slowly grow and be safer, and it would work definitely. But you, in your mind, you've got a timeline as to when you want to be able to start to enjoy life a bit more, or to achieve a bit more. And so you have to take that into account. And I think that's where risk tolerance comes in, because if you do take those chances, you can very quickly, I mean, it can go either way. I mean, you can spend a lot of money and then it not work out as well. And you've got to be prepared for that. But on the upside, if it does, it can grow your business massively. I mean, like, we've banged on and on about this RC haul to the point where it's literally changed what we source now, and we've now got contacts in RC, and we're but if we hadn't taken that chance, we wouldn't have grown as much as we have in the past year. When you look at our growth over the past year, it's been like, I try to remind myself, especially when we have weeks like this week where it's so up and down, try to just remind ourselves, like, we've come a long way in the past 12 months, a massive increase. And any business would be really happy to have that increase. And now we're just looking at, okay, we need to do that again now, and even more so in the next 12 months. So that's going to make us have to push again, and we have to make sure we're comfortable with taking on that level of risk. I
think once that you're in a position that you're able to do that, you've got that money and you're able to invest it in something, then you can keep growing. But otherwise, I mean, if you think back to 16, 17 years ago when we first started, we had a baby, we were renting a house, and we could never have afforded to invest in a haul of stuff.
We were very much go out of the weekend, buy stuff, sell it through the week, repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
For many years, we were growing slowly but surely.
Yeah, we slowly put money away, and then we moved into retail, and that was our first big, in fact, the biggest risk we ever took was investing everything we'd saved on setting up that gaming shop. Yeah, and that could have gone either way.
So that is a huge risk. Yeah, that is.
Yeah, all of our money and quite a bit we got from elsewhere.
But that's a huge risk. You're right, guys. I mean, it is a
And talking on that, I think one of the biggest points of risk, if you want to call it that we all go through, is when we decide we're going to take this seriously and put a lot of our time and energy and focus into this. Yeah. Because it isn't guaranteed. And a few people have said, I've been missing the names scrolling past, that nothing in reselling is guaranteed. And perhaps the biggest risk we all take is throwing ourselves into reselling and trusting ourselves. But I don't know many people that have regretted it.
Yeah. I think we've talked a fair bit about this. We're almost at halfway. I want to go through the chat because quite a few people have made some comments about this. Paul Calvert says, I have to pay for software every month for sourcing, and I worry that I'm not even going to make enough back from using the software, and it's only $100 a month. And I think that's an interesting comment because, like, you know, it's not always, it's just the action, isn't it? It's not a huge amount of money. You know you're going to do it, but because it's a monthly outlay, you're paying up front, it is going to make you feel like that. I mean, is that something you'd ever consider in either of your businesses, guys?
Carla?
Can I be honest and say I wasn't listening properly because somebody was and I was reading it?
It's fine. No, it's just about it was Paul Calvert in the chat. He just basically was mentioning how he has to, in his business, pay up front for like some software to help him source. You know, I'm guessing it's an Amazon thing, and, you know, and even though it's only £100, he worries every month that is he going to make enough money, even though he knows he will, because, you know, otherwise he wouldn't be paying the £100 a month, would he? So it's that kind of chicken and egg thing, but you're still human and you're still going to be concerned. As you know, I was wondering if you'd ever implement something like that in, or is that also something that would just go against you?
I don't think I would. I buy cellophane bags. I buy them 50 at a time, and because I buy them 50 at a time, they cost me about 6p each. If I bought them 1,000 at a time, they'd cost me about a penny each. But I'd have to spend more money, and I might never use the bags. And I will use the bags. And I know that this is crazy because I order 50 every 3 weeks. Why the hell am I doing this? But then I look at the price for 1,000. I think, but that's £40. I'd tie £40 up in bags. You know?
Fair enough. Logically, you know.
The sensible side of me is going, what's the matter with you? What's the matter with you? Have you got some kind of problem? Why are you like this? Why have you got to be this way?
It's interesting, though, listening to you, Carla, that you are very clear that you know what you're like and why you do. Well, maybe not why, but how you do things. But do you think that your attitude to spending and money in that way is holding you back? Or do you think this is how I'm doing it and this is the reason why, and that's why you carry on?
I don't think I will ever be particularly successful in life, because I do not have the application required. I mean, all my school reports were completely correct. Does not apply herself. Could try harder. Capable of much more. All of those things were absolutely correct. I don't apply myself. I could try harder. I can't be bothered. And because of that, I will never be a roaring success. But I don't want to be a roaring success. So whether it's holding me back or whether I'm holding me back, I don't know. I know where the money things come from. I have been ridiculously skint. I had my son very, very young. I've been a single parent for 100 million years. Back in the day, I mean, people slag off the benefit system now, but back when I was first on my own with him, it was, I think, £42 a week to keep the two of us alive. And that had to pay for everything. And things like, you know, you didn't have a TV license because you couldn't afford a TV license. So because you didn't have a TV license, you had a fine for not having a TV license, which was more than the TV license would have been, but you still had the fine because you couldn't afford the TV license and all of those things. And I have been at the point of selling my possessions, not pawning them, but selling my possessions on the regular. Not just selling the stuff you don't want anymore, but selling all the stuff you do still want.
Yeah.
And because of that, the idea of putting my money somewhere where I can't easily get it back immediately is that's a real thing. You know, I know my money needs to be, I don't have any money, but if I do have any money, it needs to be where I can get my hands on it.
That's
and
totally,
it can't be tied up in a large amount of stock where I can't immediately liquidate it. It can't, you know, I sometimes look at what's in the loft and I'm like, how much have I spent on that? And what should I do about it? You know?
It's fascinating, and I can relate to a lot of that. And if you talk to Andrea about my spending habits, she will recognise you in me, and vice versa. And that comes from my childhood, and knowing, you know, I have to save money, I can't spend. And I think all of what I do these days is somehow born out of that. You know what I mean? The choices I've made and where I've ended up have come from that. Have we lost Carla?
No, she's still there.
I lost.
Okay. So yeah, that's interesting, and I'm sure a lot of people will relate to what you were just saying.
That's mega self-reflective. I've got to say, it's really like, you know, it just makes you realize actually that's such a good point, because we are all at the end of the day, you know, from our environment, and it shapes how you do things even within your business. And it is really interesting to see that. I mean, Catherine McConnell in the chat says, I don't take risks, I think that's my downfall. So it's people are aware. It's not like they're not aware, but it's still something. Just because it doesn't mean you're going to do it, right? You still can have your reasons for not doing these things.
We've talked about me, spending a lot of money and buying big hauls, but that didn't happen overnight. That's been a learning curve for me, to be able to put money out, to lay money on the line. Remember, we've been in business now for going on, 18, 20 years or something.
17 years.
And it's taken all that time to get vaguely comfortable with spending those amounts of money, sometimes when we don't even have it.
And like I said, with the decision to go for the shop in the first place, I mean, we talked endlessly.
That was frightening as hell.
And I don't think you'd have gone for it if I'd not gone, let's do it.
No, or having somebody that's 100% behind you is the difference. Yeah, definitely.
And do you think having the security of knowing now that your roof is safe has enabled you more to be a little bit more adventurous, do you think?
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, it gives us a certain amount of freedom, and money isn't always a worry, and it isn't the number one priority, whereas it used to be. We've been in a position where at the end of the month we have no money. We know what that is, and we've come from that. So
definitely.
I mean, talking about that, that's actually been a situation where we've been in the past, like, since we've even being up there, where we've had to take risks, because if we hadn't, we wouldn't have had the rent. We've actually been in a situation where we've been so close, but thankfully, like, taking that risk, which seems reckless because you're close, but then you're thinking actually of putting yourself in a worse position to get in a better position. It's almost getting to gambling point sometimes in the past. And, thankfully things are like a lot more stable now, but these are some of the, I think, if we hadn't, we would have come a cropper. We would, it would have been a very, no one wants to have that kind of a situation. But sometimes risks become, to the point where they are necessary. So it's
the other side of risk. I don't want to sound like everything we do works out. We did very well from our first big venture in the gaming shop, and then those of you that have followed this channel for a while will know about, what was it now, 4 years back, 3-4 years back, we put an awful lot of money into setting up another shop, and we lost a lot of money on that. And the whole thing was a risk.
We had about a year of just not knowing where the money was coming from, because we couldn't pay our rates at one point. And
stressful.
We chose to put ourselves in a ridiculously stressful financial situation for a year and a half, and came out of it, having lost a lot of money. But it was a risk that we think was worth taking.
Well, I think it also plays into, the question that you guys often get is, when is the right time to go for this, or should I go for this? Sometimes you do have to put yourself in those really precarious situations and take those chances and rock the boat, as it were. I mean, it's not for everybody, but if there comes a point where you can hold yourself back and never, you might, if you're someone that's like part-time and looking to go full-time, for example, or someone that's not doing it at all, but is thinking, oh, I'd love to do this reselling stuff, buying and selling, but I'm just scared of spending money on something. What if I don't make the money back? What if I don't make a profit? There has to be that tipping point, like you guys have mentioned earlier.
Yeah, whenever anybody says to me, I want to start this, but I'm scared, I'm like, well, you just start with a tenner. And if you can't afford to lose a tenner, then you start with a fiver. You only ever start with what, and you can turn that tenner. I mean, Caroline and I did that £10 challenge, and Caroline proved that you can turn that £10 into 800 over 6 months. So you start with what you can afford. If you want to start and you're scared, then don't, for God's sake, start with more than you can afford to lose. Because the fear will stop you doing it properly anyway, I think,
Absolutely. Andrea's actually been doing a little series on our blog site where a great way into this is to not invest any money. Just go through your house. We all have crap we don't need or want. Yeah. That's your first investment. And it's the best way to learn eBay anyway.
I've only done one so far.
Yeah. And you're doing like a
1.5
round the house, room by room.
Yeah.
how to start on eBay and how to learn on eBay. Don't spend your own hard-earned cash. Get rid of all your junk you don't want.
Yeah.
And Shel Staruni has a question for Carla. New flavor of Reese's is out on the market, but to try it, you have to buy a small box worth, and it costs £20. Would you risk it for a biscuit?
Yeah, I did reply in the chat and said absolutely not. There's no way that I would spend £20 on a box of Reese's that I might not like. But what I would do is get somebody else to buy some and try theirs. I do that if I go out for dinner, in all seriousness. If I go, I went to Germany one year with my dad. I wasn't very old at the time. I was probably maybe 22, 23, so not a fully fledged adult. And I'm quite conservative in my food tastes. So instead of ordering something that I did not recognize.
Oh, Tom.
I'm so hungry.
Are you still there, Tom? How long's it been?
Hello, I'm still in the porch. It's really cold.
Did you get the care package I sent?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, cheers for the.
So he's just looking at it through the window.
Cheers for the dog poo bags, Nick. That was really kind of you.
Is the vigil still happening?
Yeah.
People still waving their lighters.
Yeah, I know. People keep bringing babies to be blessed and stuff. So I think I've become somewhat of a shrine for people.
Oh gosh.
I love the fact that there will be people watching that don't understand the context of this.
Even better.
Yeah. I just think, who's that guy outside his front door? Oh gosh.
Sorry, what I was saying was that I because my indication of my risk averseness in this case when it comes to spending, rather than order a meal that I did not know if I would like, I would get my dad to order whatever he was going to have, and then I would taste his, and if I liked it, I would order it the next night. Because if I had ordered it and didn't like it, I would have wasted the money. Yeah. And I think that's quite indicative of my there's no way I'd buy a box of Reese's in a different flavour at 20 quid. No way. But I get somebody else to buy. I want to try theirs.
I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of products these days have that thing like no quibble return. If you don't like this product, I'll just buy the whole box, try one, take it back if you don't like it.
It's a lot of outlay though. How long before I get my money back?
Depends how long it takes to walk back to the shop. We'll just open it there. Hang on. Nope, money back, please.
I don't like that. Not for me.
Welsh Wonders says, a small part of me agrees with Carla, erring on the side of caution. That being said, everything we do by nature of reselling entails risk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually a good point, because you can only avoid risk to a certain degree, and then that leads to the question, well, then you may as well take the risks when it comes to sourcing as well. But even when you've bought an item and shipped it and it sold, there's a risk involved in that, to the extent where some people refuse to sell online. That's the reason why you find some sellers that will prefer to sell their items for significantly less to you in a car boot than they would selling online. Because they don't have the appetite for that risk. It's just something to think about.
What about you, Tom? Are you willing to spend a lot of money on stock that you might not sell for a while?
I've been. You see, the thing in there is you make the assumption that I spent a lot of money on it.
Well, I've seen the quantity, and I can't imagine that you got it all for naught.
This is true. I used to be quantity of quality, but I'm trying to now be a quantity of quality. So it tends to help. But yeah, I can't say no to the mega haul. I used to be really risk averse. I wasn't like gambler. I was what you were saying earlier, that I was £1 to £5 kind of thing. But then when you add that up, it's like you end up spending loads. But I'm trying to be better. I think where I sometimes go wrong is with RA, when you can see a good deal and there's a whole shelf full, and you think, well, if it's a good deal on one, why don't I just buy them all? And then more times than not, it's like, yeah, I'll just buy them all. So yeah, but then there's a small part of me which just freaks out and panics and go, what if I can't sell them? Crap,
Yeah.
You've suddenly got yourself.
I get
like
both
30,
really.
Yeah.
But then the FOMO, if you don't buy them all, is dreadful. So you buy a few and they sell really quickly, and you go back and they're gone. It's like, oh.
like how long into like your journey on Amazon would you say that you finally kind of let loose to the point where you are happy to now clear shelves out?
I think it was probably the Chewbacca masks a few years ago was really when it first started kicking in, because I dabbled in it before, but then I got stung with these bloody My Monopolies that Nick recommended. I only sold the last one about 6 months ago.
I remember those at Sainsbury's were like £4 each at one point or something. The ones where
the trouble is everywhere had them and they were selling them off cheap. So you either had to get in and out quick or wait a long time. But believe it or not, I think you can make money on them now if you still have them.
I know, and I like donated loads. It's a pain in the arse, but yeah, I'm becoming a bit more wary with RA, especially with how especially with Amazon, that they can just out of nowhere, just for whatever reason, just decide, oh, we're just going to sell it cheaper, and then all of a sudden you're like screwed. But I think definitely with hauls and stuff, job lots of stuff, I'm more willing to go, well, how much for all of it? So you can get a better deal buying in bulk.
Well, you tend to, the bigger the deal, the better it tends to be, is a good rule of thumb. It doesn't always mean they're all great deals, but I think we've all experienced this. If you have gone for the bigger deals, it's like there's almost always more money in it than you think. That's how it tends to pan out. But it's again having the balls to just put the money out really and go for it. And that's that moment when you have to believe in yourself and take the risk, if you want to call it a risk. But as we were saying before, Tom, I tend to work it out as much as I can mathematically. Do you do that if you're faced with a decision? Yeah,
I work out. Can I, if at a push, get my money back by, say I'm buying media or something, if I sell it to CEX or Music Magpie, can I get most of my money back if I need to, if the bottom falls out of the market kind of thing?
Yeah.
But I'm one of these people who ekes it out to the very last penny of what I can get out of something. So yeah.
See, I mean, here's an example. Only me in the chat says, you've got some serious sack if you're going to resell them games on eBay. And I'm assuming he's talking about the sealed games I picked up at the weekend. And I appreciate that comment because it's true. There's a lot of people that won't want to take a chance. But the thing is, I've taken infinitely bigger risks than a £200-300 N64 game. I mean, I've shipped amps costing 4 times that much to the States, and I've shipped things which are bigger, bulkier, more delicate, and have got the same risks. So I appreciate that, it's a collectible and, you've got the worry of scammers, but you can't have that attitude if you're looking to actually maximize your profits from things. I mean, Craigslist Hunter had an issue where he sold a $2,000 laptop, and he did get scammed. Someone sent back like I don't know, some bricks, bag of sand. But if you ask him, would he sell another £2,000 item on eBay? I'm pretty sure he would, and I'm pretty sure he has done subsequently on numerous occasions.
I think that's the way of looking at it, the risk element at the point of sale. And I think user here have shown the rewards taking that risk. You've not shied away from selling really high-end hi-fi that could easily get broken,
and get scammed and all that jazz,
around the world. And there's a lot more risk there that a lot of people are scared of than there is at the purchasing point. I think the risk at the point of sale is actually more daunting to a lot of people, me included, than buying stuff.
Says the man that flogged a £5,000 game on eBay and
shipped.
And nearly sold it for 30 quid.
Yeah. Oh, that still scares me, the fact that I never gave it away. Yeah.
Well, the thing is here that you've got to, I think the only people you'd have potential problems with it are people who would buy it, open it up, and then want to return it. That's really, I think that's one of the major risks.
Sure.
But have you thought about gaming groups? Oh, I suppose you're not on Facebook, are you?
No, no, I'm not.
That isn't a dig, but
I know,
that could be a reason to come back on Facebook.
Of course, yeah. I mean, at the moment, I'm just going to sit on them just for now. I'm not sure.
They'll be a bit crushed, won't they?
I was going to ask Carla. That's going to really ruin the packaging.
I was going to ask you, Carla, do you Do you, if you sell a higher value item, do you get that sort of pang of this could go horribly wrong, which I still do all these years later? Do you still have that sort of risk element when you're posting stuff out?
Oh yeah, proper squeezy bumhole all the time, right up until the feedback arrives, and even then a little while after that, because I've known people leave feedback and then go, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's a large number, I'm checking the tracking. I'm seeing it's been delivered. I'm still not breathing properly. And then that moment when you get a message, you get that message tone, and you recognise the name, and you're like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And sometimes it's just, oh, it's lovely, thank you. And you're like, oh.
You really throw your week out or your month out if you get a huge return.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Suddenly you're not budgeting for like a £200 item coming back, and then you're like, oh, I have to accept this return. Here it comes, boom, and that's like £200 down for that day, and it's like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, we've got Adrian with us in the chat, and he had that issue with his clock, didn't he? That the lady decided was too big for her wall, or some bizarre reason like that. Some
caravan, wasn't it?
Odd thing, yeah. It was too heavy for a wall or something like that. And again, he had, you hadn't budgeted for that return. And a lot of people in the Tatchat kind of said to Adrian, "Well, you must never spend the money until you know it's safe." But in the real world, most of us just do spend the money because that's my money. There you go. I've sold my item. I've got my money. I'm off down to Sainsbury's to get my bread and milk. That's how we operate, And then I gave out a 50-odd quid return last week for a parcel that's been bouncing back and forth from France for 2 months. I swear to God, I expected it to come with like springs on the bottom. It's been back and forth across the channel, and I had to give this. And I really did not want to give this woman her refund. I've got the stuff. I've got the stuff back, so it's not as if I'm losing out as such, but. That money came into my PayPal 2 months ago, and to my mind, I don't have that money anymore. I've got some other money, and I'm going to have to give her that money back out of my other money.
Yeah, it never feels like you're giving the same money back. It always feels like you're giving your own money begrudgingly. When you press that refund button, pressing the refund button just hurts every time.
I hate it.
No matter how much it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the nice thing about this is we've hopefully shared 5 pretty different opinions on how we approach risk. And Peter Ray's just made a comment saying, in the chat, saying that like he's prone to panic if he doesn't know what's going to happen, due to his Asperger's. So he needs to have that reassurance. So everyone, it's just a reminder that everyone's different, everyone's situation's different. So please don't take this as we're saying, oh, you've got to do this or you've got to do that. It's an element that you should just be aware of. I would say that's probably about it. Just be aware of it. Whether you choose to take more risks or less risks is going to come down to who you are, where you are, at what stage of your business you are, like we've said, and these all things are going to vary from person to person, from business to business.
As I was saying before, with experience comes the ability to maybe risk more if that's what you're comfortable with. I was just reading Martin's comment there. He says, hi Martin, by the way. When I started selling Lego 8 years ago, I would worry about spending £50 on a lot. Now I regularly spend thousands at a time. You have to speculate to accumulate. So that just illustrates, you don't start off thinking, I'm going to sell on eBay. Let's go and drop £2,000 on a van load of gear. It doesn't happen like that, or not in my case. That was something I grew into, and
I mean, I still, actually saying that, I still remember very clearly the first time I took what was a risk for me with my reselling. I still remember it. I bought, I think it was within the first few months, I'm like that, where I just jumped in at auction and I got myself a breathalyzer, but it was like a Met tissue one.
That's to see if you were drunk when you were bidding. I'll just take that along with me.
It was more than I'd ever spent at auction, because what has been happening is I'd been getting into auctions, and at first I was only buying clothes because they were really. I was actually really into clothes, like jeans and shoes. I used to buy sacks and sacks of used clothes at this auction, and they would only cost a few quid a bag, right? But then, you slowly start dipping your toe in, and I ended up spending more than I'd ever spent on a breathalyzer. And I think it was, with everything in, it was about 90 quid. And I was genuinely stressed that I'd spent 90 quid on one item. And I still remember on the Sunday evening when it finally ka-chinged and I took an offer for like, I don't know, it was like 250 quid. I genuinely remember jumping up and down and saying, like, literally go, Beck, I sold. Yeah, honestly, the excitement was so massive for me that I'd spent 90 and turned it into like a £260 sale or something like that. I was just so over the moon with it. And I remember that. And it's like, now I wouldn't react like that. You know, it would take something.
You're forever chasing that high. This is honestly, you're like chasing that moment and that feeling of, yeah, boy, did good. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking, what am I going to have to do to achieve that again? You know,
just to interject and say that the flip side's true, that I've seen people in the community and myself have sort of done it where they've started, they've gone balls deep, excuse my language, they've bought loads and loads and loads of stuff and with not much of a clue, and then they've gone, oh God, I've got to pay my rent.
Yeah,
it's got to sell now.
Yeah.
And they're maybe long tail items or something they've seen on YouTube, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, knowing just, or you could just overwhelm yourself. That's the other side. If you go in on, especially if you're doing a haul, you could easily overwhelm yourself because, you know, you'll be excited at the point of purchase. You'll be excited when you go to collect the stock. You'll be excited while you're bringing it back home. But when it's piled up in your house, it can really change. It can suddenly become quite negative if you're not careful. But only me just put another comment and says, sold a disc and it was mint. Guy said it was scratched. Hence, I wouldn't sell anything I value enough to want back because you aren't getting it back. And, you know, again, that's, some people are going to have a negative, you know, experience, and it will be enough to put them off. And I completely respect that, only me. So I'm like, you know, that's completely understandable. Why would you want to put yourself through that if you don't need to? But again, it's an example of a risk tolerance level, right?
Yeah, and that will vary from person to person. It varies from myself and Andrea. You know, we could look at the same item and have a different opinion on whether we should risk that money.
Yeah.
You know, and it comes down to your opinion on it, how confident you are you can sell it, how quick you think you're going to sell it, what you think it's worth.
Yeah, many times you stop me from buying something, not because you've stopped me and you won't let me, but just because you think that I shouldn't, you know, invest that. And I think, oh, maybe you're right, and I don't.
Sometimes you can get caught up in the moment, though, can't you? Like junk drunk. That is what I am guilty of. Bang to rights. Is I'm like a junk drunk alcoholic. You know, I'm.
You know what? Like, I think earlier on, Peter Cummins actually asked, like, when I bought those games, like, did I have all the knowledge? Was it an educated thing? And I actually think at the moment of buying them, Tom, I was junk drunk. Yeah, I didn't even know about the H seam or anything. You know, I only know that now. That's how, you know, just, yeah, look, Tom literally just went like.
I said to Andrea after I watched that video, I said, if I put myself in your shoes at a boot sale, unless I'd done the research, I don't think there was any way I was laying down £400 at a boot sale.
Do you know what it was? I literally went, yeah, for me though, it was, this sounds so corny, but I really do go on like gut and sometimes like the whole thing, because it wasn't like he was out there selling them, if you know what I mean. Like, he'd bought them to show a friend, and like it was like, I literally, because I'd bought stuff from him that was on his stall, and I was walking, just doing, you know, like laps as we do, and as I was walking past, because I went past it again because his stall was attractive, just, you know, the stuff he had on it, I was like, have I missed anything? Because he had some cool stuff, and I heard him talking on the phone, and I was like, sorry to like eavesdrop, but I couldn't help. I heard you talk about games, and he was like, they're not cheap. They're not like, I bought them to show someone that he's a. And that
starting to color the picture now. That makes
maybe I didn't. I think I was too like flustered on Sunday when I did my live stream, but there was more to it. Like, and you can, with experience, with seeing these things. And there were certain things which I was sure of. So, for example, the PlayStation games which had the PlayStation strip amongst them, And he also did have a GameCube game there that had the Nintendo strip on it. And because when you see a couple of things that you're pretty sure are right, the chances are, again, this is risky because it doesn't guarantee it at all, but the chances are the other things are going to be right. And then I got drunk like Tom said, and I stood there. Beck was just stood behind me going.
The thing is, when you color that story with the fact that you kind of got an element of trust with this guy, he didn't have him out on his stall, and it was that story adds up now. You see what I mean? I was trying to picture it, and I was thinking, wow, this sounds
a bit risky.
You see, Zahir, I haven't actually watched you, but he obviously sent us the pictures, but I need a bit of quiet private time when I'm less enraged that you got such a good deal. But it just shows you that stuff's still out there. And like you were saying about the seals, I picked up some Seal PS2 games the other day, and like this one is new, but it hasn't got the strip like this one has. So and I was like, no way! Like some of the new ones
bundled with controllers. Was that a Buzz one or not?
No, it's just called Telly Addicts.
I didn't know if that was a Buzz one. No.
Telly
You
Addicts.
get those resealed DVDs, can't you, in some charity shops? Do you think they're resealing games as well?
Well, this has got like one of these protected, and it all came from the same lot, which was found in the back of a warehouse. So I know that's all right, but I know I've fallen foul of like the Poundland style resealed ones before. You picked it up and went, oh, that's new. Well, this was back in the days when you could sell DVDs on Amazon. But
when we used to have accounts with Sony, Microsoft, etc., and we'd get shipped stuff, it was random. Some would just be randomly shrink wrapped really badly, straight from the wholesalers. Not everything had. Certain companies didn't even, all of their stuff was just shrink wrapped. It didn't have Sony seals on it or Xbox seals or whatever.
It's like that with PSP games. Some of them were shrink wrapped.
Depends on the publisher or something how it's done. Yeah, I mean, Pete's Retro Collectibles in the chat says that's how I started. I'm going to sell on eBay. Let's go spend £3,000 on stock, but it was all new goods at wholesale. And that is quite a gutsy move. And not everyone will
sale or return.
Yeah, God knows. Southwest Seller says, will buy anything at auction if I can double my money. Have spent over 2,000 at one auction. And I think you do grow into that. Definitely. Peter says, really great chat tonight. Great topic. Have got to go now. Much to do tonight. See you all soon. Well, thanks for popping in, Peter. Appreciate it. And yeah, I really do appreciate. It has been actually quite a informative chat this evening.
I need to follow Pete's excellent example, I'm afraid, because my friend's here to pick me up.
Oh, okay.
She knows how to behave. She's arrived with a lot of empty boxes for me. Now that's a friend.
Oh, there you go.
She knows what's expected. Thank you for having me. I must go, but cheers,
yeah,
guys.
we're gonna be calling soon anyway. All right, Carla. Stu says, I remember when I first started out that spending £10 or £20 on an item to resell felt odd, even though I was reasonably sure I could make a profit. Happy to spend 3 figures on a single item now. I mean, it reminds me of, actually, you guys have been talking about dresses earlier. I mean, I remember once I literally marched back into a charity shop to almost force her to buy. She spotted these really funky looking Ted Baker trousers and they were £10. And even though she spotted them, I was like, why did you leave them? Because she mentioned it to me. She has a habit of doing this. Once we've left, you go, oh yeah, I saw this. And I literally said, all right, let's go back in. Almost had to kind of force her to buy it. But when they sold, and they sold for like 40 odd pounds, that's what builds confidence. At some point, you kind of just need that little nudge, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think you found that, haven't you, with clothing?
Yeah. See, if I pay up for clothing, I always know that, look, I'm going to have to list this now. Otherwise, it'll be like I bought like a 1990s American Air Force bomber jacket. I bought it over a year ago. I've taken the photos on the mannequin. I've got the draft, and I still haven't listed it. And I paid like 20 quid for this thing.
That's such a cool sounding item, though. That's like top, man. I mean,
Yeah, so it had like all the cables for communication with the headphones
Oh wow.
and all that. Yeah, I haven't. It doesn't interest me. So I think that if it's something you're interested in as well, that helps.
Yeah, definitely,
You
definitely.
should get that Telly Addicts on now because Noel Edmonds is in the jungle currently.
Oh, did he go in the jungle?
Yeah.
I didn't realize. Was he like? Was he like the special? There was some special.
Yeah.
I think I've got a few of them. I mean, I've got loads of these. Everyone's goal. I've got a whole box of stuff.
Everybody's tennis. Is this literally like warehouse stock?
And then I've got loads of other ones here. These are all new.
Oh
Just
my
found
God.
in a warehouse sitting there for years and years.
No way.
Shovelware, but the fact that they're sealed, you'll find a collector that wants them.
Yeah, it'll be someone who just needs a shelf filler kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll get that Noel Edmonds.
They're going straight onto your shelves more like.
No. That's one thing. That's one thing. Funnily enough, that's one thing I don't really do is seal collecting.
Oh really?
I don't really understand it very because then you can't play it.
Yeah, but it's all sealed though, you know. Ooh.
Yeah, true.
It's like one-upmanship, isn't it? Yeah, you've got Mario 64. Oh, I've got a boxed one. Yeah, well, I've got a sealed one.
Yeah. Sealed.
Oh, I've got a case of 5 of them that's sealed. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's exactly. That's just it. Okay.
Well, I think that was a good subject, and it was really interesting to get different point of views and
Yeah, definitely.
how we approach
it shows
things.
that everybody's in different places with those.
Yeah, and there's no one right or wrong way to do it. I know we always come around to this, but it's so true that there isn't a way of doing reselling. There isn't a way of running a business.
There's no formula.
So it's great to hear, actually.
There's nothing wrong, is there? There's nothing wrong like keeping it lean and
I think it's because you can get quite passionate about how you do things because your business is your baby, as it were, and you do get really passionate about how you do things. I think when you're sharing that, sometimes it can come across as a bit like, oh, this is how I do it, but that's not to mean this is how you should do it. It is literally just how we do things. We've always said this. We've always been at pains. All of us here have always constantly said, like you said, there's no right or wrong about this. It's just what works for us or what we think works for us at the moment, to be even more specific, because even that can change. Yeah. Darren Smart. Darren says, I have a harder time spending £10 in a charity shop than I did spending $2,000 on all the Warhammer stuff. I did more research on the Warhammer lot.
Yeah,
very good point, Daz. Very good point.
That goes back to what I was saying when I started talking about the big hauls. If you've done your research and you're confident in your ability to know the numbers, it almost feels like there isn't any risk, even if you are spending £2,000. And I would understand what you're saying. £10 on a whim in a charity shop with very little information can feel harder than spending £2,000 on what you feel is a surefire win.
Yeah.
Like if I'm at a boot sale and I've got no phone signal, I just will not take risks, really, unless it's something I've sold before.
Fair enough. That's interesting.
Paul Calvert's asking, Tom, did you buy those games at auction?
Nope.
Oh, this is need to know, is it? Okay. Well, I think on that note, because we are just past the hour mark, I feel. Really do appreciate everyone's input in the chat. I'm sorry I didn't get to read out all the comments, but we do get carried away. So we do try our best, though. Really do appreciate it. Just to mention, I will be on Steve Rakin's channel on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. In case anyone's available for the thrift battle. I've got to make sure I've got some stuff to share.
Again, I never spoke to Chris about that.
Yeah, it's on Steve Raker's channel this week, but they've started it. This is episode 4, so
surely you can just destroy them with the sealed gaming things.
But that's just like boring, isn't it? In a way.
No.
What? No. Am I I was thinking maybe I should do like a Nick Furby style video with one of those and see how that goes down.
Yeah.
Friends.
I'm glad they didn't contact me now because we haven't been sourcing and I've got nothing of interest to show, so it's probably a good thing.
So we're doing that. And other than that, I think it's the regular stuff. Anyone got anything to share or next video
there is
coming out?
a YouTube. There is a guy called Reggie on YouTube who has a show called Breaking the Seal, where he opens sealed games. So if anybody wants to go, he's a collector who wants to look at punishment.
I was thinking I was going to do a sales roundup, so I might do that shortly.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Bit of evening viewing. All right.
Seller ladies over on the Flipping Fantastic Finds channel, 1 p.m. on Friday.
Superb.
I've got a video that I'm editing at the moment, which should come out the weekend. So.
There we go. Excellent.
Live from the porch, was it?
No more locking myself in the porch.
For those that don't know, just in case, everyone should know this by now, but possibly one of the best videos on YouTube came out on Tom's channel the other day. It was a live stream. And
I'm so annoyed that the audio's out of sync with the video.
It doesn't matter. It's the message got through, Tom.
Yeah. What I didn't say in that video was one of the most awkward moments in my life occurred when, just if for people that don't know, I locked myself in my own porch of the house. There was a Yale lock behind me, closed behind, and my front door was locked and my keys were inside. And I was sat there for over 3 hours and in the cold. All my company was a bottle of antifreeze called Dave. And one of the most awkward moments of my life is when our local postman, who's been delivering us for years, walked up and slowly and slightly awkwardly posted a bank statement through the door whilst looking at me dead in the eyes. And then just swung on his heels and walked off. And I've not actually seen him since. So that conversation is going to be awkward.
You know that?
Yeah, probably. He's probably quit.
He probably thought you were just really excited to get your mail. You were just sat there.
Yeah, I was like a dog, like a dog's dead excited by the door. Yeah. So.
Darren says, me and Phoebe were driving at the time of the porch moment, almost went into a ditch crying with laughter. It's almost like one of those things where people are like, do you remember where you were when Tom locked himself in the porch?
What I should have done is got dead excited and like held my hands underneath the letterbox ready to get the mail, like I was super excited. But no, I was too cold.
Margaret says it's classic. I had a good chuckle. Yeah, at Tom's expense, unfortunately. But
that was Lex's idea to go live, so I'm glad I did.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. You could not make it up. All right, guys. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're going to call it a night there. I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening. Nick's going to be doing a sales vid. That'll be cool. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
See ya.
It's the bit where I